Hello, I'm BMillzebub, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the youth group I was part of in high school. You've heard me mention it before in other videos and live streams. Now I'm going to give it the full attention it deserves. And to help me with that goal, Recovering Catholic is back with her own stories.
And if you ask me, our days are numbered, falling one by one. It seems to me somewhere we blundered with blind faith and trust.
I think the video where I gave the most attention to this group was my There and Back Again video, where I gave a brief explanation of my journey to and from Catholicism. Let me give you a closer look into what the youth group I described was like. On Monday, we'd have Bible study where we study the Bible. I mean, that part is kind of self-explanatory, but it also included mental gymnastics, apologetics, because there's such a difference between the two to make whatever verse we read not be horrible. On Wednesdays, we had a group called Dead Theologian Society, which was admittedly a play on Dead Poet Society. Here we discuss the lives of various saints. Interestingly, my former youth minister was a founding member of the program that has now, for better or worse, spread far beyond a single parish in central Ohio. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly an interesting concept. It gives historical context to the lives of people Catholics venerate, as well as the people who played such an important role in the history of the Church. The problem comes into play when they start talking about how miracles, which by definition are impossible, are true, among other issues that would occasionally come up. Fridays were pretty fun. We'd have movie nights. We didn't usually watch any religious movies. They were usually secular, but obviously on the more appropriate for churchgoers side. More than anything, these were just meant as a fun way for everyone to hang out, unwind, and blow off steam after a week of school. We did other things as well. I went to Ireland, Wisconsin, the Right to Life March in DC, among a few other events, but we didn't do those things very often. This is really more meant to give you an idea of what a usual week looked like for me with this group. But that's enough out of me for a little bit. What did a usual week look like for you with Life Teen Recovering Catholic?
We actually had life teen meetings and retreats almost exclusively on the weekends. A lot of the leaders had day jobs, and even those who didn't wanted us to do well in school, dedicate every weekday to it. We had our weekly Saturday night mass, followed by the meeting. I don't know if they did this with your branch, but there was a mass specifically geared towards the teens. We had a roped off section in the front of the church, right in front of the priest. However, between us and the priest was the Christian rock band, which one of the Life Teen leaders was in. The Life Teen Mass was pretty much a party and to make us look like we were role models for the younger members of the church. It was pretty much to make being a Catholic teen seem as cool as actual partying. A handful of us, including myself, were also altar servers, which gave us more personal bonds to the priest as we got to joke around with him behind the scenes. After the Mass, Life Teen would gather in the basement of the church, but not the same part of the basement where the church school lessons for little kids was held. We had our own special section down a different hallway. We even had access to bathrooms that were not the ones for the whole church. They would provide various foods, usually pizza and some sort of dessert or snack. We would all be kept from the half of the room with the carpets and couches by an accordion divider. We couldn't eat until a prayer was said, if I remember correctly. While we ate, we would chat about anything, even non-church stuff. When the adults announced they were ready with all of the setup, they would open the divider to form a doorway for us to go through. They'd start some sort of discussion on a topic like friendship or peace. They might have dedicated the night to a particular saint or famous Catholic. Sometimes they would have us do a sort of open Q&A where we would basically use God and the Bible to fix each other's problems. What do I do if this is happening? Why is God doing this? Sometimes it was a discussion that a youth member or visiting alumnus wanted to discuss. We rarely knew what would happen between the pizza and the ending prayer. That's part of what made it exciting, even if really batshit or emotionally upheaving things happened. They always did something sometime around the ending prayer to make us leave feeling like it was a good time. Life Teen also organized for us to go on retreats, such as Steubenville, like I talked about before here. More frequently, just ones that would last a solid day, but we would still be taken home. We would be at those retreats from early morning until late evening. We went to marches like the Crop Walk to Fight Hunger and the Right to Life March, which I did not attend but was scolded for not going by the group. My parents are pro-choice and weren't fans that Life Teen was using the others. They also once had a sleepover in our little gathering space in the basement. I, again, slept on the floor for Jesus. They may have held more, but I left the church not too long after. For the most part, though, it was just the Saturday evenings being packed with the emotional upheaval from about 4 to 10 p.m.
Interesting. I was an altar server as well back then. Your memory of this seems to be quite a bit clearer than mine. Then again, it's been much longer for me since leaving the program. I did also leave out Mass on Sunday, but that one I figured everyone could take as read. But yeah, our church had a band for the Life Team Mass as well, and pretty much everyone in it had something to do with the youth ministry. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the way that Life Teen indoctrinates teenagers. From what I remember, it was a really welcoming experience. And looking back, it almost feels artificial, especially coming from the adults. Kind of like they were too excited for us to be there. Despite my reservations about the church and this program, because remember, I was teetering on the edge of atheism at that point. This facade of kindness went unnoticed by me. This fake excitement for me to be there also came from some of the other teenagers in the program, which I think kind of helped sell the illusion. And if that tactic isn't love bombing, it's something very closely related to it. I honestly don't think any of the adults ask the teenagers in the program to participate in it. They really wouldn't have to. Teenagers, while they do still have their rebellious tendencies, can be pretty malleable and follow the examples that are set for them. I said before in another video that social acceptance is a hell of a thing, and that this was really the first time I was getting any social acceptance. And it really is one hell of a motivator to stay with a group. Honestly, if not for this love bombing tactic, I probably would not have stayed in Life Teen and would have been all the better for it. How about you, recovering Catholic? Did Life Teen employ the love bombing tactic on you or anything like love bombing?
The last time I went to a Life Teen event was maybe 2011, 2012, so definitely a lot of details still available. I do apologize if I seem to go on and on, but there's just so much to it all. Uh, Thinking back on it, they definitely did love bomb, but with a twist. The thing is, my Life Teen group pretty much siphoned the members out of the church school classes on Sundays, so a lot of us held a degree of affection for each other coming into it. Joining was sort of like the I'm a big kid now moment in our lives, which is partly why I was so excited to join. They also tailor-made their love bombs to specifically get at what we craved. Most of us, like you, desperately wanted acceptance. Most of the teens were bullied. I know I was. A young gay man thought he was accepted by Life Teen. A lot of us needed therapy more than religion. We needed friends. More specifically, many of us needed family. There were several complex family dynamics. I knew someone who lived with his grandmother but really wanted a mother and father figure, and he found that with Life Teen leaders. Several kids of divorce, so many people who didn't have or lost siblings, parents, etc. Since everyone knows everyone in my area and the group encouraged us to open up, the leaders would even often mention those people we were missing by name. For me, it was my brother. While things between us have improved since then, there was a long stretch of time that he wasn't in my life. He had been in Life Teen when he was younger. However, he and I have a 9-year age gap. We were not in the group together. But I wanted some way to feel close to him at the time. Something I could talk to him about if he came back. As I couldn't play sports to save my life, I turned to Life Teen. Interestingly, unlike other cis girls in the group, the leaders really encouraged my friendships with the guys and how I called them my brothers. Most of the other girls were encouraged to date the boys in the group. I was absolutely allowed to cuddle with the guys I was closest to, but the other girls were not necessarily given that privilege, which I didn't even think about that much before right now. That's how well done that little manipulation was. And boy, did Life Teen like to bring him up. While these leaders were not the nuns who had been in charge of our Life Team before, they had been a part of the group for years. So they knew my brother, they knew why we were not on good terms, and they knew how much that separation was killing me. They really encouraged me to cry about it and would huddle around me in comfort. Or they'd casually mention him, asking if he'd contacted me yet, telling me to just keep praying because surely God would bring him back. Hint. God didn't do shit unless killing both of my grandpas in 1 year, bringing my brother back to us for mourning, was somehow godly intervention, in which case God can suck it. Anyways, this sort of huddle situation happened a lot, and not just me. They had dedicated one night to a girl telling, or more accurately, testifying about her recent suicide attempt and how God had her get help. She was encouraged to go into the details of the method, the mentality, and the aftermath. Then the leaders basically had us spend most of the night talking about our mental health issues and having us give each other reasons to live, trying to cure us of mental health and also form an emotional connection to the group. So they'd break us down and then love bomb. And these were tailor-made to really hit home for us, which I feel made it stronger. Life Teen found the cracks, or made them, then filled themselves right into the space. This group was about 90% of my social circle, especially when I began bringing some friends from school to it. Hell, at least 4 of the guys I knew dated girls I was close friends with from school. One of the 2 boyfriends I ever had, before I realized I didn't like guys, was from the group. But if we left and didn't come back, most of us lost those connections. One of the guys who dated my best friend now doesn't even remember me. One of my brothers told me at one point that if I stopped calling him my brother, he would date me. Then tried to force the issue. Real brotherly affection there. Glad I have my real brother instead. So did they do anything like that at your branch? create these sort of high-intensity situations to almost trauma bond you, or sort of pinpoint what would hurt you and use it?
They may have done something like that, but to be honest, it's been about 15 years since I've been part of Life Teens, so I don't remember too much detail. Nothing quite like that comes to mind, though. That's really invasive and honestly disgusting to me, though. Not to mention manipulative. Whose bright idea was that to emotionally manipulate kids like that in the first place? We did have some pretty messed up aspects to the program, like we'd be taught to twist and contort the Bible to suit whatever need we had for a conversation about it. There were some aspects of it that violated the law, 501c3 tax exempt laws, for a start. Life Teen has that designation, which means they don't pay taxes as long as they're seen as charitable. But they also can't take political stances, which my group would regularly do. Honestly, if not for this group, I would likely never have been a Republican. With that, let's talk about some of the negative impacts this group has ultimately had on our lives. I'll start. As I just said, I wouldn't have been a Republican if not for this group. Because of this group, I grew up with bad ideas of what healthy relationships looked like. A particularly bad outlook on the GSRM community, and went as far as to say they should absolutely not have the same rights to get married as me, a straight person. As far as I was concerned, at the same time, women definitely had their place, and it wasn't an equal one to myself as a man. I'd treat Christians who weren't Catholic better than I'd treat non-Christians, but it still wasn't good. I'd treat people who didn't follow some form of Christianity like shit, but the people who were on the absolute worst receiving end of the spectrum of my treatment would have been atheists at the time. I was a real douche back then. Seriously, I was a spectacularly awful person. I definitely wouldn't want to be anywhere near who I used to be. Fortunately, I'm nowhere near who I used to be. Damn near the polar opposite, actually. How about you, recovering Catholic? What are some of the worst effects Life Teen had on your life that you would likely not have had to deal with if not for the program?
Well, hey, be proud of yourself for breaking out of that mindset. A lot of people don't. As I said, when I collaborated with you before, I had a good priest and great parents who had no idea what was really going on. They were and are super accepting and loving people. When my priest was told he had to deliver a sermon against gay marriage in America, he brought in an openly gay but celibate priest who delivered the speech sent from the higher ups sarcastically. Then the guest priest followed it up with a homily to the effect of, "Wow, that was some BS, eh? Let's just throw love thy neighbor out the window." So I came out still pretty liberal from the get-go. Also, I know someone in your comments mentioned that my priest should have checked in on the group or gone to the conference. This will sound like apologetics, but I swear this is just why he didn't seem to do that. Firstly, he was one of the few priests in the diocese, and he was in charge of not only our church, but other masses in the area, especially if another priest was sick. Additionally, if I'm not wrong, he was also caring for an elderly priest on his own, so they didn't put the man in a nursing home, and or his elderly mother. He had a lot going on. He couldn't just go to Ohio. He also did come and visit the Life Team meetings, but much like any abuser, that's when the leaders would put on their best behavior. And with us being young and impressionable, I assumed that if I tried to tell him or my parents what was happening, they'd say it was okay. As an adult, I realized I should have told any of them, but that's how deep the manipulation went. So, to start with, a major negative side effect was Life Team's contribution to my fear of authority. I often felt belittled by the leaders and older members and did not feel safe standing up to them or talking to other adults who could have helped. I still struggle to stand up for myself because they taught us that when you disagree with someone, you should spit in their face, scream at and over them, and they followed what they preached. When I said I was pro choice, they absolutely screamed in my face that I wanted to kill babies, even as I told them I just didn't think it was right to make decisions for other people. One of the reasons I ended up leaving was that they said instead of having civil discussions with Jehovah's Witnesses, we should spit in their face or try to out-convert them. They laughed about it. I was friends with a Jehovah's Witness girl at the time, but couldn't bring myself to say anything. This was also just one of the issues that started with the Steubenville conference, which, if you haven't seen that video of BMillzebub, go check that out. Additionally, my already low self-esteem hit hellish depths, and I developed quite a complex regarding my self-care starting with that, which only got worse with more events with Life Teen. As I said in the other video, I truly believed I was an evil person. Life Teen only continued to make me feel that way. They told us multiple times in many ways that if we did not give of ourselves physically, mentally, financially, until we were destitute ourselves, we were horrible and selfish. That to be good people, we had to be martyrs. This concept of martyrdom continues to plague me in my anxiety. I never feel smart or giving or good enough until I'm utterly exhausted, which only makes being chronically ill all the more upsetting because I cannot even do what an average person can, let alone a superhuman. This also brings me to my self-care issues. From that very first incident, when Life Teen should have taken care of me during a medical crisis, yet did not, they established my illnesses as being inconvenient and a divine punishment for some fault of mine. They also continued to show this during my membership, in particular, asthma attacks, during one of which a leader looked down at me sitting outside on a stair, using my inhaler and fresh air to breathe again, after telling me for several minutes not to use it. She then said, even as I was clearly getting better, some rather passive-aggressive things. You don't really need to use that. You could become addicted to it. You weren't even breathing that badly. You really caused a scene. Are you just looking for attention? I now often conceal when I'm dealing with medical issues. I struggle to make myself take medications like anxiety and pain medications because I don't feel I've earned them. Because surely, if I haven't gone through with killing myself, I can't possibly be that bad. I try not to complain about anything. It's either jokes or silence. After all, I deserve it somehow. Surely. And even when I remember I don't deserve it, I still feel as though my problems are inconvenient, especially when compared on a larger scale. Yet, this is an improvement from when I blamed myself for world hunger or got sick enjoyment from having self-sacrificial nightmares. I had considered one in which I was literally raped and murdered to spare someone else a good dream. Because we were meant to be lambs for slaughter. And when it comes to the GSRM community, I too am part of it. I identify as asexual, aromantic, and plan to be with women and femme-leaning, non-binary individuals. There were a lot of influences that made me believe I would need to force myself to be with cis men. Life Teen was quite a strong one. I'll go into all of the things they did when I start to make my own content, as it could be its own video. From multiple meetings around marriage as they saw it and betraying a young gay man's trust, to a sick chastity promise, Life Teen made their views on the matter clear. But as I said, my priest taught love and acceptance and had no idea his work upstairs was being undone downstairs. To be honest, even the good effects of Life Teen on me had nothing to really do with Life Teen itself. Though the group may have proclaimed it kept kids from partying on the weekends, I know damn well many of them just partied other days of the week. Or, like me, we're not going to be party going people to begin with. Some people are living full, happy lives and others are not, even when they stuck with the group. The good effects it had on me would appear as, I guess, obedience, silence, and humility. But it was actually my natural anxiety disorder heightened, a disregard for my own well-being, and a lack of self-esteem. So while I was a devout Catholic and good kid, even the positive effects were really negative ones that had been bedazzled. Were there any genuine positive effects for you, or was it also just gilded negative ones?
Any good effects from Life Teen would have been a double-edged sword, honestly. Like teaching me what social acceptance looks like. The other side of that leaves me questioning whether this new group, whatever that new group happens to be, that's giving me social acceptance is going to try and take advantage of me or indoctrinate me somehow. It gave me motivation to be more aggressive in making my point. But again, the other side of that is that sometimes I just run over people and keep them from making their points by making my own or disrespect other people who've done nothing to deserve it. Fortunately, that one isn't something that happens very often. I've learned to kind of temper it and only be aggressive where I think it's warranted. Really, Life Teen, I don't think I can say did a whole lot of good, if any, for me. And for you, it definitely looks like the bad massively outweighs the good. My group would never have tried to deny medical care to someone who needed it or shame someone for taking care of their medical needs. They did say some silly things about suffering on a few different occasions, actually saying that if we had a headache or something like that, we could give our suffering to God instead of taking ibuprofen. Although I can easily see how someone could extrapolate from that and end up denying themselves necessary medical care. But as far as an asthma attack or trying to convince someone that they should risk literal death from an asthma attack and not use an inhaler, no, nothing like that, at least that I'm aware of, ever happened with the group I went to. I want to say something directly to young Catholics watching right now who are in the Life Teen program or about to enter the Life Teen program. I genuinely suggest that you not. While recovering Catholic and myself may not be the norm, I'm honestly not sure, I suggest that you take the time and consider whether you want these things to happen to you or not. Because while you may not have the same reactions to the program that she and I had, many of the things that happen to us will definitely happen to you. You will be love bombed to get you into the program. They will begin to indoctrinate you after they've got you hooked. They will encourage you to go out into the world and preach the awful things they've indoctrinated you with. whether you manage to retain something or most of your humanity like recovering Catholic managed to do, or you lose almost all of yourself to the religion like me, they will encourage you to go out and preach these awful things that cause undue harm to others, particularly the GSRM community and women. Ultimately, this program does more harm than good. Recovering Catholic, do you have any advice for young Catholics entering Life Teen or already in the program as well? Anything you want to say in closing?
If you are considering entering Life Teen, don't. There are many youth groups out there, secular and faith-based, that are not Life Teen. And while I may personally discourage faith-based groups, at the very least, don't go to a Life Teen branch. For you already in Life Teen, take note of the issues you see in your group. If they encourage behavior that wouldn't be acceptable in a job, get out and get help. Be mindful of what the leaders and members say or do. They may smile or seem concerned, but the words they say may still be cruel or combative. If you notice members or groups being belittled, stand up for them. I no longer believe what you believe, but would your Jesus approve of that treatment of others? I think not. Be kind to others and be kind to yourself. You and they are more than sacrifices to the divine you believe in. If you recognize anything we've said in your own branch of Life Teen, get an adult who will restructure the group or shut it down entirely.
I agree with everything you just said. Be mindful of what the leaders of your group are saying. If they're telling you to treat other people like garbage or are treating each other or the children in their care like garbage, say something to either a parent, preferably a parent, or the parish priest, someone, and preferably get out yourself. Don't get me wrong, I had some fun times while I was in Life Teen. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I got to travel to Ireland because of this group. But I would, without a second of hesitation, trade all of the fun and travel and social acceptance I got from this group to not become the horrible person I've described who I used to be because of them. If you haven't considered anything else we've said for the duration of this video, consider that. I would trade every second of fun and travel I got from this group. 4 years of my life, every second of it, I would trade all of it just to not be what they molded me into. That's going to be it for this one, though. Thanks again to Recovering Catholic for coming onto my channel to tell her story. Hopefully she does start making content like she teased a little bit earlier, and if she does, I'll link to her channel down in the description.
Thanks for having me on. Hopefully I'll start rolling stuff out soon.
That is going to do it for this one, though. Hopefully you all enjoyed it and found it informative. If you did, please leave the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. And as soon as Recovering Catholic has her channel up and running, subscribe to that as well. If you feel so inclined to help me out, consider supporting me on Patreon, where I have monthly patron-only live streams, or consider getting me something from my Amazon wishlist. Every little bit helps, and every little bit is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, linked below, to keep up with all my comings and goings, and join my Discord for a chance to talk to yours truly. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.